I will start it tomorrow.
All right.
Come on.
Was not 6 yet.
By the time you get seated, it will be.
Oh, we're late. No, I'm not late.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. All right, call the meeting to order. And members present are myself, Kevin Myers, Dan Lindall, Bruce, Monica, Doug, and Andrew. Okay, call to order by myself at 6 p.m. As I see, there's no public participation.
I have something to say.
You might.
You might.
Any public
If
participation?
I ain't lifting up my phone, I'm good.
In reference to,
Anything that's on your mind, but.
I'm just thinking about Whoppers, man.
All right, so I will start it with Platting Committee. And call the Platting Committee to order. All members present. Okay, I guess I give this to you. Or-
No, you're gonna give that to the large man beard over there. And you may want to properly introduce him as, this, I think this is his first appearance as our zoning administrator.
It is.
Yeah, you are new zoning
And
administrator.
so that means you have to bear with me
Okay.
and deal with my rookie mistakes if there are any.
Well, I'm gonna pick your brain on the next issue after this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
As far as the East Mansfield Street, business development zoning reclassification, as I've called it, fancy word for rezoning East Mansfield Street past, Redstone going east. I don't know how much detail you want me to give, whether I can go through the full presentation as I did at Planning Commission, or if you want me to provide kind of a high-level look at it, I can do either way. So whatever you guys want to hear is fine with me.
I'd say try the high level look and then we'll
Sure.
find out if you have questions.
Sure. So the purpose is to rezone East Mansfield Street to prepare for future business development with a comprehensive one-time zoning reclassification. Particular points of interest which led to this project, there are really three. The initial thing that brought my attention to a rezone out there came from the owner of Whetstone Plaza. They had put in a business that was a skill-based game room. I'm still not terribly sure as to what the true definition of that is, but they're not a permitted use in the neighborhood business district, which is what the Whetstone Plaza is zoned as. In order for them to come into compliance, the only way to do so was to rezone that as general business. Similar skill-based game rooms were through the BZA were determined as a similar use to specialty stores in the general business district. In 2011, one went out in the East Point Shopping Center, and they had to go through that process of getting a similar use determination. When a similar use determination is made, then it becomes a permitted use for all of that district. So it became a permitted use for every general business district. Because it's permitted use in the general business district, you can't pursue a similar use determination for it in other districts. It takes that off the table. So their only option was to rezone as general business. That the owner, Dr. Strickland, was on base. It really kind of provides more opportunities for businesses there anyway. It's not a huge change from neighborhood business to general, but there are some permitted uses that are allowed in general, not neighborhood business. The second was the interest in the former wire assemblies building. There has been, what I've been told is there's 3 parties interested in using the building, but mostly for things like warehousing, distribution, machine shop, light manufacturing, those types of things, which it's currently zoned general business, and those things are obviously not a permitted use in the general business district. It does abut to the south. There's an LIC district that we can bring north, as you can see on your maps there, that would, we can just extend that LIC district to the north, and it would allow them to do their warehousing, their distribution, and you would also have conditional uses related to manufacturing, that type of work. And then the third was the former McFarland's trailer park site. Obviously, that needs to be zoned in a way that more things can go in there. Right now, it's residential. I think it needs to go to general business just to allow for whatever development wants to come there. And so, as you can see on the maps I provided, there's the current zoning map as it stands, and then the one right behind it will be how it will be proposed going forward. The big changes are obviously the neighborhood business district to the general business district, and that would include Whetstone Plaza, the VFW, and O'Reilly Auto Parts. And then the R3 district, residential district, to general business district, which would include the insurance house there, a couple of residences, and the McFarland trailer park site. And then the LIC, we're proposing to take that from GB to LIC, and you see that's just for the wire assembly site. In the packet as well are just, it's an overview of the uses and the development standards for both the general business district and the LIC, so you know exactly what uses could go there and what development standards they have to meet. And finally, on the last page there are some additional considerations that I think are important, particularly dealing with residences that exist in that neighborhood. So any residence that gets picked up in this GB rezone will be grandfathered in as a legal non-conforming use. So there's no issue there. Should it sit vacant for 2 years, fall into discontinuance, which basically means it loses its grandfathering, they will have an easy avenue to use it as a residence again, because residences are a conditional use in the general business district, so that's a simple BZA application, BZA hearing, straightforward, not a crazy long process. Residential districts bordering business districts. Many of them out there exist as such presently, and obviously East Mansfield Street is a busy street. I don't think we're going to be concerned with an increase in traffic or an increase in noise over anything that already exists there. It's pretty much the characteristic of that area as it exists. But the code does offer some protection for residential districts that are to the general business district. As you see laid out there, the minimum side yard requirements, if they abut to a general business district, increase. The minimum rear yard setbacks increase. There is landscaping and screening that is required. That can be a 7-foot tall fence. That can be natural vegetation that at the time of planting within 3 years will be 7 feet tall. And then also this isn't included, but also any dumpsters or trash must be enclosed and screened as well. So that's another protection for the neighboring residential properties.
Okay, Kevin has a question.
I got a couple questions for you. First, the one you just mentioned, so you're saying that's the responsibility of a business to provide the screening?
Correct.
And not of the property owner?
Correct.
And then you answered one of my other questions already by saying if it sits vacant for 2 years, it reverts back, but they've got a pathway.
Yep.
So I was going to ask you, just correct me if there's anything else I missed, is there any other downsides to a residential use there? Are these people that live there now gonna see any difference negatively?
Like I said, I feel the characteristics of that area are already that of a busy main street in our town. I don't think you're gonna see much increase in noise or light or traffic or or anything along those lines. Likewise, there are lighting specifications for general business, so it has to be directed away from the residential. Those things exist as well.
Would those residents have an opportunity for a public hearing? Is that part of this process?
Right, that would be where we go from here.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if you guys necessarily approve anything tonight, but a public hearing will be set. Letters will be sent to the neighboring, I believe within 200 feet, anybody affected by the rezone. And they would have their opportunity to come and voice their opinion and you know, to you guys, and you weigh that against the benefits of rezoning it for a business use.
And then my last question.
Sure.
With your proposed changes, have you come across any scenarios where you can see a downside to that for the city's sake? Is there any permitted uses that would fall under there that don't currently, that would be distasteful or otherwise harmful to the community?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, the general business district is throughout town in various different locations, and I don't see anything nefarious being allowed to go in there. You know, I think the main concern is simply just gonna be how the residents feel about having a business district, having their residents located in a business district.
Anybody else have any questions? Bruce?
So the gambling was a non-conforming use, but it was allowed by the BZA to be there, correct?
No, the skill-based game room is not a permitted use as it is being operated. We did not shut them down. We allowed them to remain open to go through this process to see if they would be allowed to stay. If the zoning change is not approved, they'd have to leave. Or they'd have to go to a general business district. That's the only place they can exist.
Yeah, that never came up to the BZA since I've been on there, so.
Well, being it's next door to a residential area, that's why. Now, being the ward councilman, I gotta worry about the people that live there too. I mean, as far as, so their business, or we're taking it upon ourselves to automatically change this area, this Whetstone Plaza, on their behalf, or are they actually paying to
Well, no, they
petition us?
did not submit the application. It was a confluence of all three of those events that I mentioned that led me to just go ahead and pursue it on my own. Instead of waiting, and then, you know, it could have been, okay, we got their application, we'll go through this process. 2 weeks later, we get the other application, we'll go through this process. I just thought, why not tackle it all at once, save myself some time, save everybody else some time, and just get it done in one foul swoop.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna commend him for taking that step. I think we need more forward thinking like that. And I also think, I know what you're saying, Bruce, but those little houses, and I don't know who lives there, but those little houses, they're on Mansfield, it may actually increase the value of some of those because.
Yeah, I think there's a couple schools of thought there. I mean,
Yeah, some of those are like little, I don't know, 1 or 2 bedroom
but it,
homes there, and they fell into disrepair for a while, and then it looked like someone went in and tried to fix them up, and then I think one of them's for sale.
You're talking two different places.
Yeah, I'm talking on the other end, you're talking up.
I'm talking on the west, very west end, you're talking on the very east end.
I think the consensus might be that the more uses a property has, the more permitted uses, the more conditional uses, the more opportunities you have for various activities, the more value that land might hold. But, you know, I think there's probably competing thoughts on that as well.
All right. When are you wanting to do this? To make this, when are you trying to set up?
That would be up to the process now, I think.
If the committee wants to move forward with looking into the proposal, you would have to set up a public hearing 30 days after today's meeting, which would be the 18th of November. That's the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, or Thanksgiving week, I should say. So you might want to wait until the week after that, the last week of November. And we would schedule a public hearing for at some point during that last week of November.
I'm in favor of going to that point, just to let the people in that neighborhood have their say and see what they think about it. There might be a resounding, absolutely not. There might be a resounding, sure, why not? That's really the only way we're gonna get to find out
Okay,
what
well,
they think.
I'm gonna bring in our next, because this falls in the same line as what we're talking out on the east side, we're talking about from here at Charles down to Oakwood, between Poplar and Walnut, so we could do 2 hearings at once, because we're gonna ask for a possible change to neighborhood business. That's what my question, that was what was already up in committee, and we had to go through this process to change it for Tim Hortons. We had to go through the process to change it for True Value, well, which is now Ace Hardware. Here we could change it so that the east side of Poplar and the west side of Walnut, between from Sandusky out to those sides of the street, can be zoned as a neighborhood business instead of
R3.
R3. The west side of Walnut and the east side of Poplar from Oakwood north to Charles.
Which, and
I know.
I didn't terribly prepare for this portion, but it's very similar to what we were just talking about from a high level view. Most everything through there at this point is residences. But they would obviously be protected by grandfathering as a non-conforming legal use. Should they fall into discontinuance, just like the other houses on East Mansfield Street, residences are a conditional use in the neighborhood business district, at which point they could pursue the BZA application for a conditional use approval and be right back in as a residence, should that be the case. It wouldn't be considered spot zoning or anything like that. If the neighborhood business district already exists bordering it, so it would be a simple expansion, basically just half a block west and then half a block east.
Right. And that would help, I see it as a helpful, like when we had Donato's, the proposed Donato's at Rockworks building next to the, whatever gas station it is now, it was Shell, now Marathon. That they can expand on to go towards Walnut, and there's that empty lot there on the other side of that could expand to Walnut if they needed to. That could make it more attractive to some business. That was my proposal. Now, doesn't mean it's gonna happen, it just, it does increase the property value, because if it's neighborhood business and they can buy it without going through the paperwork of changing the zoning, that could help. Doesn't mean they have to sell, but that was why I brought this up again.
And I think the concerns would be very similar to the ones we just talked about. Maybe even more so because those are more residentially have the characteristic of a more residential neighborhood in those locations.
Right.
We'd be more concerned with bringing business in there because it doesn't have the traffic of East Mansfield Street. It doesn't have the noise of East Mansfield Street. They're quiet for the most part. And, that would be a concern, but outside of that, it's very similar to the first subject there.
Right. Anybody have questions or comments or?
Are there gonna be three different parcels then? That way, what I'm saying is it's not gonna be all or nothing, is it?
Well,
On East Mansfield Street?
I don't know, and that, if we separated, sure, you know, I think each one has their own merits, so if it would be a detriment to one of them, if they were all included on the same, then I would say separate them. That way, at least maybe 2 of the 3 can fly.
Can that decision be made after a public hearing, or does that need made before?
The public hearing would have to define what the intent was, and so we could very easily list it as this area, this area, this area, all changing to the same zoning district. Probably easy enough to do it at this stage and do it at that public hearing stage so that it can be considered that way. Because I take what you're saying, Weststone Plaza is much different than Morrison was, you know, as far as what the.
You got a heavy load of residential homes right in that area, even though it's a business. I mean, it'll be up to my voters.
Yeah, yeah, so you can definitely do it as 3 separate parcels, and the public notice is the same. The legislation that comes out of it would be the same whether it's 1 parcel or 3, it's just gonna have, so, no reason not to do it as 3 parcels.
Is there a way that we could request, for the next discussion, next step in this discussion, how long has that business been operating there? Have there been any police activity in the area? That'd be something I'd like to know.
We can certainly have that at the public hearing. We can get police call stats and all that.
For that matter, maybe you want the stats from the one out in East Point Plaza too?
Yes.
Well, it's there.
No, that's a moot
It's
point.
2 different areas.
That's a moot point, so we're here for.
I figure when you're trying to find out how much police activity that business is gonna bring you, you wanna know regardless of where it sits.
Different neighborhood, I think.
Yeah, this is right next to
I
residential.
understand
Now,
that,
point,
but
there's
the
no
point is
residential.
the business is what's going to attract the crime. So regardless of where the business sits, it's
Correct.
going to attract crime. Well,
So we could have a public hearing for Mansfield and South Sandusky.
Yeah, sure.
And that
And
would
we could
save,
have
that
it
would
for-
save money on legislation.
We could have it for the 3 separate items on East Mansfield and then South Sandusky on top of it, sure.
Yeah, before committee, Bruce, Monica.
I think it's the appropriate next step to get the people that's gonna affect the most.
All right, so I need a motion
I'll make a motion.
to have the 4 separate as in one public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye. All right. Motion passed. I will, if
Well, we
there's.
need to set a date for that.
He suggested for a week after Thanksgiving.
Week after.
Don't get too far in there, my wife is due in the first week of December, so I may not be available.
Thanksgiving's the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
So the following Monday.
Well, Monday, we will most likely be having our committee meetings, because the committee meeting would be Thanksgiving. We
Right.
typically go to the next Monday. Now, we talked about that on Tuesday doing that, so that's probably going to be.
So we could have it on Tuesday, the 27th.
providing that his wife doesn't go anywhere.
Supposed to be the 2nd, we'll see how timely my son is.
Well,
Well, you might want to come earlier.
Yeah, maybe he will.
okay, would, if he isn't available, would you be able to?
Yeah, we can make arrangements, we'll make sure it's covered.
Okay. All right, if there's no objection, 27th of November, 6 o'clock.
I don't know, I mean,
Or you want a little later?
I'd like to have it later because there's people that do work.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm asking. 7:30?
How about 7?
Any questions, any objections? All right, 7 o'clock on the 27th. Okay, with that, I will adjourn at 6:25.
I guess it's public lands and buildings, we'll call that. We're at 6:25 and property transfers to the county land.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just a little bit of background. I apologize that these maps are not in color. We had some issues with the copier. I had to do these outside with the vendor, so they're in black and white. I talked to the law director about the 2 parcels in question, 317 Southeast Street. I believe we have done all those parcels in there. We did a piece of legislation in September for, I think, the little square here at the corner, and the little matchstick size rectangle. We did that as a transfer back in June of 17. Those pieces of legislation are attached. I think they're just waiting for the land bank's just waiting for the deed. And then as far as the other property on Wiley Street, I'll let you go into that.
Yeah, the property on Wiley Street is not a transfer to the land bank. The land bank would actually like to transfer their property that is next to ours to us. So the question is whether or not we want to accept it. It's in a somewhat residential area. I know we already mow this section, and we are, because it's a land bank, we are already mowing their section, so there's not much one way or the other to it. If we don't take it, land bank's gonna hold on to it, and they'll do something with it eventually. Maybe.
If we don't take it, the land bank will hold on to it for 3 years, and then they will offer it up at fair market value, which on a broker's price opinion might only be $200 or $300, doesn't really.
Yeah. So we could take it, and try to do something with it. It's in a decent little neighborhood out there. Nice little area. So ultimately, it could be something that could, maybe somebody wants to develop some apartments or something.
Yeah, it's close to downtown,
Yeah.
really, and there may be some development there. I think it's a good idea. I looked at it earlier, or before, and I thought we were giving it to them, and they came in prepared to say, no, I don't think we should give it to them, so I think we should ask for theirs. So this worked out perfect for me. I'm in agreement, except now I can't argue.
It may be a situation where, with doing the CIC that we acquired, I put in CIC and maybe somebody wants to put some
That
apartments.
all worked out.
Well, thank you.
So, no, anyhow, my opinion, I think it's a good idea, and, that would be great property, we go into the CIC, get them started.
I'm in agreement.
I'll make a motion to accept the property.
I'll second that.
Land bank.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, then no opposed, then, so that passes, but then the 317, that was already taken care of, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's already started, so we're good.
All right. That I also, when I looked at that today, I thought, that says they own it. So, or no, it says this one they own. Okay, so I'm all done, and that is,
Wait a minute, hold on.
okay, wait.
I'm gonna bring up a topic that, so the public out there is corrected. And I guess it's in public lands and buildings, or it can be. At our last council meeting, it was stated that compost site is only open, or it is open until 2 o'clock, and I know the sign out there says 1 o'clock, and I got on the city website, and it says 1 o'clock.
On Saturday. Should say Wednesdays and Fridays 8 to 2,
Right,
and Saturdays till 1.
okay, that's what I said, but according to your service director's report, it says 2 o'clock.
That would be wrong. It should be 1 o'clock on Saturday,
Okay.
so I'll be corrected. So,
Yeah, I know it's 1 o'clock because I don't know how many times I went out there thinking it was 2 o'clock and I know it's 1 o'clock.
I misspoke, I apologize. I had just looked at it the day before and thought that I had read at 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Everybody knows.
Okay, all right. So, anything else for public lands and buildings? If not, 6:30 we'll end this one.
And I will start economic development at 6:30. On your agenda tonight, we have the proposed housing study that was brought to us by Gary Franchhouse at the Economic Development. Basically, this is a study that's done by Danner and Associates. They've done this stuff for the last 40 years plus. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to come in and they're going to give us a proposed EMA, which is an effective market area of where we can pull maybe more people to move into the community, whether it be maybe from Marion County or just outside of Bucyrus area. One of the other things that it looks at is it looks at what type of homes you could use in your area, what type of housing you need, whether that be newer, more modern apartments, whether it be condos, single-family homes, what need your area has. This study is supposed to be done with the city of Gallion, so this would be Gallion and Bucyrus both having this study done. Ultimately, when Gary had brought this to my attention, he said that he had gotten a price based off of what it would be to have it done individually for Bucyrus, individually for Gallion, and they said that if you were to do them both together at the same time, we'll give you, in a sense, a group discount. The total cost between Gallion and Bucyrus together, if you do them both at the same time, is right around $40,000. Gary said that he is willing to put up $20,000 of the partnership's money. His hope was that at that point then Bucyrus would kick in 10 and Gallion would kick in 10 to cover the 40. After he went and spoke with Tom O'Leary told him that he was interested, very interested, but he was only willing to put up $5,000 of the money. So with that being said, Gary went to the Avita Health System Board of Directors and spoke with them to see if they would have any interest in also helping with this housing study, because it could very much impact them with all their new hiring of executives and doctors and the growing Avita Health System, which they were very happy to oblige. They just would like to see that he has the Chamber of Commerce is on board, both municipalities are on board, and if that being said, then he is willing to help out as well. The reason that Gary went to Avita first after going to Gallion to see if they were interested was, like I said, just because of all the new hiring of doctors and different billing and that. They have, most of their people are living in Ontario, Lexington, or even driving to Delaware. And most of the reason for that being is they're wanting to live in more newer apartments with the newer aesthetics and just the more modern look and everything like that, which we don't have a lot of those around here right now. So that's one of the things, that's why they wanted to do the more modern apartment study. But the study in itself overall is supposed to allow us to know what type of housing we may need moving forward, what type of housing we're lacking, and what ability we have to possibly pull in people from other counties to move into the Bucyrus area and live here, because we would have these housing features and, the smaller town, a little less expensive to live kind of thing. So that's the gist of everything that I have. I will entertain any questions if anybody has and do my best to answer them to the best of my ability.
Well, of course, I'll always say something.
I'm hoping somebody would.
Hey, no, I think it's good. We're doing something positive, moving in the right direction, and although, that's a chunk of money, but it looks like if everyone's on board, I would be at $10,000, I think is probably a bargain for us. So, because those things probably really cost.
I'll agree with mine, I need one to say something.
Any historical data on when the last time a study like this was done? How much we had to pay for it and what benefit came to us out of it?
My knowledge, I did not ask that question of Gary when he brought this.
Curiosity.
Very good question. And I would be more than happy to oblige and find out if he can give me that answer. If not, I would assume that we should have that as public record somewhere. Yeah. after I read through everything on this, I like it for the simple fact that I do feel like we are lacking, it seems like we're lacking something, because a lot of these, you know, like I said, the people that are working in the Billet health system and a lot of the professionals we have in the area seem to move to the Ontario and Lexington area, and I think that has to do with just the aesthetics of the living area. So maybe if, you know, we definitely have areas in this community that can be developed into apartment complexes, condos, even single-family homes. There's a lot of great locations that are sitting in the area right now that are either vacant, or maybe they're farmland, or something to that effect, so. But if, I guess if nobody else has any questions, please read through this. There's a lot of information about the company Danter and what they've done, and Mr. McKeever.
When do they recommend to do this? How soon do they want to?
Well, they want to get started as soon as possible. Basically, at this point, it's just getting a feel for if everybody's on board and wanting to do this and move forward before, you know, we start discussing with them moving forward in the processes and procedures that will take place. As you do read through the packet, it does give you a timeline for how long it will take. I believe the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first part is like 6 weeks, and the last part being, I think, 2 weeks or something. Yeah, phase 1 requires 6 to 8 weeks for data collection and timing subsequent consulting with, because they consult with local businesses. I mean, they do a very vast study of all different aspects to see how this is going to affect housing. They like to talk to developers and see who would be available to possibly develop these properties, what their thoughts are. They want to talk to employers and see what their thoughts are on, you know, the needs for housing. So, but in altogether, it looks like you're looking at a max of 8 to 10 weeks for the study to be done. So, roughly a 2 to 2.5 month turnaround.
And the other question is, you might have already asked part of it, but would, you can tell us the benefits it has helped? How much of a benefit this would help us?
Right. Well, the whole idea of it is it's a benefit in itself, because now we know, like I said, we have these empty properties. We're starting this CIC, and we're going to start developing land and things of that nature. Now we know what we need to develop them into. So that to me is a very big tool in itself right there, because if you just go in blind and start developing things and nobody wants them, it's a waste. Whereas if we know what kind of housing we need, then maybe that's the type of developer we bring in and ask them to develop that property into that use. Or in the case of the CIC, maybe the CIC has the ability to develop that property itself and use the right developer to do it. So. Anybody else?
Is there any consideration that the Crawford Partnership encompasses the entire county, and Crestline's not involved in this study at all?
I have not heard that they have been involved yet. That was something that actually, as I talked to the law director about this the other day, he wanted me to bring up to Mr. Frankhouse about seeing about getting them involved in this.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact that, you know, you're again, you know, granted, they don't have as near, it seems, as an issue with housing over there as we do in Bucyrus, but still to include them too, because, you know, Avita's expanding into their area just as well, so they may need some different housing.
And I'm just thinking of the other areas of the county as well. I mean, I don't know if it's if a countywide assessment can be done at the same cost, or, I mean, if that's been discussed at all.
I can find that out.
And I guess also then, you know, that kind of throws another, I'm just thinking out loud here, but as far as sharing the cost of the study, you know, that creates more questions for me as to what's our percentage share of the cost going to be. You know, if Galleon's decided they're only gonna contribute 5,000 to it, are we being asked for 5,000 or 10,000? And then also, if it's gonna encompass, you know, Crestline or other villages, you know, is there gonna be participation on their part? So I guess I just wanna get a little more understanding of how that's all gonna flush out at the end there, so.
I will get those questions answered, and I will get back. Does anybody else have any other things to look me up for? All right, I will adjourn then at 6:39 p.m.
Health and safety, 6:39 PM. You have before you a proposed traffic control map change. I'll read a letter dated October 5th to the City of Bucyrus Council, attention Health and Safety Committee. Dear Health and Safety Committee, the City of Bucyrus Traffic Commission would like to recommend an amendment to the traffic control map. Number one, repeal ordinance 62-67 dated December 20, 1967, quote, "No parking of a motor vehicle shall henceforth be permitted on the south side of East Southern Avenue from the Marion Road east to Whetstone Street in the City of Bucyrus, Ohio," end quote, and replace with, quote, "No parking of a motor vehicle shall henceforth be permitted on the north or south side of East Southern Avenue from the Marion Road east to the city limits." Sincerely, Jeffrey L. Reeser, Mayor. And you'll see the next page is just what we've asked for in the past, is see the actual entry and how it's worded, and we've got on the letter here how it's gonna be reworded. So I did a little checking, and basically, this is gonna eliminate parking on the north side of Southern Avenue, between Whetstone and Highland. These are the only places that parking is currently allowed. So there's about 4 to 6 houses there. They do have an alley behind them. They all do have off-street parking. So I don't know how much off-street parking they have. I don't know how many vehicles each household has, I don't know what the impact would be to them. But that's the only thing. So I think in 1967, my guess is there wasn't any of the houses east of Whetstone. They may have all been built after that. So it's just rewording. Mr. Wagner, I don't know if you can expand on that with what the conversation was, that how did this come to be, or was there a complaint, or?
No, I think it was just the way it was worded and, going towards the Y, it's not labeled that you can't park. And now we want to go all the way to the city limits.
Okay, and so sure, then if the city limits ever continues to move eastward, then we don't have to update this by not putting a street in there.
But the question I have, is it really impeding anything between Whetstone and Hopley? Is it really impeding anything having them park on that north side?
It's not to Hopley, you're going east on Lower Leesville now. I guess I'm not, I don't know how to ask you.
The only parking that I ever see is, like Kevin said, is only between Hopley and Whetstone on the north side. Basically from Highland to, that's the only parking I've ever seen is maybe
And my
6 to
concern
7
with it is
cars.
we have a lot of other areas that seem skinnier to try to drive through.
Yeah,
So,
Rogers.
I don't understand where you're at with that.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen people park between Highland and Whetstone.
That's the only place that's
Right.
allowed currently until you get to Whetstone.
Right.
Like Mr. Wagner said, there is no signage going from Whetstone east out towards the Y, so they could park there if they wanted to right now. I get that part of it.
Yeah.
I guess I don't like removing the parking that exists on the north side between Whetstone and Highland.
Yeah.
I guess I don't see that being an issue.
That's my question about it. I don't see how it's an issue there, especially like you said, we have the problem on Rogers, which is a 3-block area, which is ridiculous on parking on both sides. I lived on East Street for many years and had to drive down Rogers many times, and I don't think a fire truck can turn off of Southern onto
Drive down
Rogers, but that's beside the point. I don't see why we'd have to eliminate the parking on the north side between Highland and Whetstone, because it is a curved street there, and it is more than wide enough that there's only parking on one side. Bruce, do you have any comments? That's your area. I'm just,
No, unless there's been a lot of mirrors that have been broken off the cars or something like that, but I know of no complaint.
Andy? Any input?
Kind of just, on this one, I think if there's existing parking I mean, there's a lot of areas like this in town. I mean, you have a lot of areas, I mean, I deal with it on Kaler, going down Kaler every day, is you've got a car
Parked on
coming
one
at you
side.
and a car parked on one side. It's, you know, you better wait, or yeah, like you said, somebody's gonna lose a side view mirror, so. I mean, there's a lot of examples of this around town, so I don't know, you know, why this one in particular is on the,
We deal with it on Oakwood.
on here.
Would you guys be interested in sending this back to the traffic commission with our recommendation that we do not remove the existing parking between Whetstone and Highland, but still proceed with placing, you know, no parking from Whetstone east out to the city limits? Especially since that's not curved at this point.
But also all the way from Marion Road.
But that's already no parking on the north side.
Yeah, I'd say to alter that to what we recommend, to leave the parking.
I mean, I wasn't at this meeting, but from what I'm hearing from you is that mainly the biggest concern is from Whetstone out to the city limits east.
I agree.
So do we need to send official communication back to them with our wishes, or?
I'll write a letter.
Do we need that in the form of a motion?
A motion to refer it back to traffic commission for what?
I'll entertain that motion.
So move.
Mark, a second. Mayor?
Second.
Second from Andy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All right, yeah, Todd, if you could draft a letter back to them, that would be much appreciated. Also, real quickly, it's not on the agenda, but it is an open item. I just wanted to let everybody know we had an ambulance board meeting last night. Everything's progressing smoothly for the transfer over to the new company, which will start on November 1st at midnight. And I invited all the other ambulance board members, and I'll give you the same invitation if anybody wants to be down there at midnight to show your support for this new company and bring your hand with anything. You're more than welcome. It's a Thursday night. Yeah, the ribbon cutting will not be at midnight. They do plan on having an open house within the first couple of weeks. The company has named a local manager this week, so that's a big benefit. That's one of the requirements of the contract, that they initially weren't ready to name anybody. They want to get to know some of these people, but they have named a local manager. All our repairs that the city's doing down there are very appreciated, and it looks like everything's good. I delivered to Joyce the documentation for the payment of the subsidy and all that. So just wanted to bring everybody up to speed. If you have any questions, I encourage you to let me know. If we have no other conversation or questions, I'll go ahead and recess at 6:47.
I'll call the finance committee to order at 6:47 PM. First thing was the proposed housing study, which is currently on hold with economic development. Then we'll move on to the residential CRA contract.
Well, this is the contract with Bodemar to update our CRA enterprise zone stuff and to include residences in that. We had previously taken it through committee, and the committee approved funding and council approved the funding for it. But we need a piece of legislation that actually authorizes the service safety director to enter into that contract, and this is money that we previously authorized. So that's what this is.
And authorizing me to pay it, I'm assuming.
Yes,
That'd probably be a good thing.
yes, exactly.
So,
Okay. First,
Try to keep up.
first by Myers, second by Wireball. All in favor?
aye.
Motion passed. Okay, next, changes to the billet.
Okay, if you flip to page 2, well, page 2 with a copy of legislation.
Page 205.
It's on page 4, actually, in the packet. We're getting ready, trying to get ready for, in the waterworks fund and the wastewater, Terry Spiegel's retirement. Probably be in March or April of 19. So as we looked at the jobs that we have in each one of those, in the waterworks department, we have a superintendent, class 3, and then in wastewater, we have a superintendent, class 3. Last year, at some point in time, we created a foreman's position in the street department, and put someone in that role when Jerry died and retired. But what we'd like to do in the wastewater and the waterworks is not add anybody, but add the position of foreman in each one of them. They stay in the union, and we basically won't have a superintendent in either one of them. We'll leave it in here, because if we pull it out of here, then we gotta go back and change the manpower. And if somebody down the road wants to maybe put a superintendent back in, they can do that. What we're really looking for is to save a little more money, and we have 2 people that can step in and be the foreman, and be in charge of each facility, which will save us a little bit of money, and they'll take on that role as a foreman when he retires in February. So what I'd like to do is add a foreman to each one of these. We won't fill the superintendent. And then the chief operator, we want to change this chief operator / lab technician. And the reason for that is we need another operator of record in our water plant besides Chad. And that's a per EPA mandate. So for us to have that in both, that's just a change. We're not adding any personnel per se. We're just promoting 2 people that have been here for 15 years. So that was.
So what would be considered a working foreman now?
Yes.
I mean.
Yeah, he'll be able to do everything from approved vacations and things like that, but if it comes down to discipline, then it comes to me. So he'll be able to, I'll still have to sign off on vacations and things like that, but he'll actually be in charge of their facility.
And you still have to sign off on bills because the
Yeah.
union person.
Yeah, they
cannot
cannot,
do
because
that.
they're still in the union. But when we looked at the foreman and the, would be the chief operator / lab technician, between Terry retiring and those positions, we could potentially next year save around $30,000 between the 2 funds. But we won't, the promotion at the wastewater will fill with a transfer probably from, within the union. And then the water department, we're gonna start looking at whether we need 24 hours a day. It's a work in progress at this point. But if I get these jobs posted, because as a matter of fact, we posted them and then kind of hit everybody, hey, we gotta look at the billet to do this. So we can get people in motion to start doing some of these things Terry's doing to get them trained and ready when Terry retires. So.
Questions, discussion?
Makes sense today.
So you're not gonna have a superintendent in the water and wastewater?
Correct.
You're gonna have just one
No, we'll have.
foreman in each of them,
Correct.
and it'll save about 15,000 each
In each fund.
in each fund.
Because Terry will still be here for the first quarter of next year.
Right.
So,
But they would be trained by him and.
yeah. And they're doing a lot of the things now, but we just want to get, Tim Wood's probably not been exposed as much as Chad has. And Terry's been working with both of them. We want to start getting positions filled with newer people, so I can't do that until we have this changed. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the bill.
First by Andy, do I have a second?
Second.
Amy? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, on to various appropriations.
I'm gonna have to step out. I think you guys got
Thanks for those compliments.
soccer ended early, so.
Okay, as I mentioned Tuesday night, we have a couple appropriations we need to take care of. The first one is in the general fund, Program 1, Security of Persons and Property in the Police Department. And this is in personal services, $127,500. This is for salaries and benefits to get them through the rest of the year. At the beginning of the year, when we budgeted, I don't believe we were planning on being fully staffed at this point, which we are now. But we also have $60,000 coming from the school district that we haven't received yet, so that offsets this. Then in waterworks, we need to, this is in waterworks filtration out of the new plant, we need to increase contractual services by $12,000, and this is to cover the electric bills through the end of the year. And this is due to the fact, partially, we didn't know what the bills were gonna be this first year. This is our first full year. And we were also still paying electric at the old plant for several months. So we needed $12,000 to get us through the rest of the year.
Questions? Do I have a motion to approve those appropriations?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kevin, second by Andy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. The transfer?
And transfers. Sewage disposal is quite an animal this year. We had a lot of projects that we put in at the beginning of the year because of the 0% loan that we've been granted. So we put in the appropriations for the Group 1 sewers, the Group 2 sewers, and the revenues from the interest-free loan against that. Well, we just found out, what day was it, Jeff? Tuesday?
Yeah, I think that was the day I told him I needed it today.
Yeah. We've been trying to find out because obviously the loan money can't be drawn until we started the project. And we can't have our appropriations sitting there more than the money that's actually coming in. So we found the answers, and I was really worried because our personal services and sewers and drains have taken a hit because our guys are transferring out of other departments to do the smoke testing and testing the sewers and everything for the Group 1 and Group 2 projects that are going to get started. So these transfers, which don't involve an appropriation, we're just moving from other places within the fund. We're moving $1,400 from contractual services and sewage disposal administration, $4,600 from other uses in sewage disposal administration. And what that other uses was the sewage disposal share of audit costs that we didn't have to use. So, this is money that's just sitting there unencumbered. So we're moving the $6,000 out of sewage disposal administration, and then out of, this is basically the wastewater plant, 7530 sewage disposal operations and maintenance. We're moving $20,000 out of personal services because it appears we've saved some money there since Terry's salary is split now that he's a superintendent over all of this stuff. And we're moving into sewers and drains personal services, a total of $26,000. And that should cover our salaries and benefits for the rest of the year. Yes.
As Joyce said, we've been talking on Branstead or Carroll about the loan money and that, and I did ask if some of our payroll could be covered by the work we're doing, and they didn't think so. Well, then I threw it out to them to say, well, then maybe we need to be a subcontractor for you. So in around get some of our money back, but still
checking
money
in
one way or the other. But because we're doing work for them to be ready for these projects. But as far as our salaries that we're using to do this, he didn't think that was reimbursable. from Will. So, he'll be here next week and I'm gonna find out.
So, but maybe it'll work something out there, but we don't know yet. So we need these transfers for this, and I'll just alert you that I will be referring appropriation reductions at the next meeting, because we're gonna take these projects out of that fund, because they're not going to get started until after January of next year. So we gotta get those appropriations done. But right now, we just need to cover payroll.
So moved.
Second.
First by Kevin, second by Andy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Do we have any public participation? Oh, wait, I need to. 7 o'clock. Recess finance at 7. Public participation? Done? Have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
First by Doug, second by Mark. And we'll adjourn at 7:01 PM.
Good job, people, we got done in an hour.